Before we start this video, a large thank you to a name I unfortunately cannot pronounce. That is really funny. If you know, you know. And also a very large thank you to Lucas, Sebastian, great name bro, and Andre for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. And a massive thank you to Halo Burner and Ryan Bellin for their continued and immense support to the channel this month on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Okay, so I am here in my project, Nephlite, to give you a better articulation of what we're gonna do today. So, when we damage a character, right? So if I go over now and I go up to this undead here, mining the rock. So let's pretend I'm in somebody else's game and I am a client. Let's pretend that this person is very far away. If I were to hit this zombie like so, what would happen is I would send a damage RPC to them, and then eventually they would process it and send back an animation RPC to me showing that the zombie has been damaged. But there will be a delay. But because I'm the host of this game, there's no delay. But actually in Nephlite also it wouldn't matter. There would still be no delay because here's what I do. So if we want to process this instantly, all we have to do basically is process the damage effect on our side instantaneously and then tell the host that we did it. But we can't edit network variables, obviously, and the character's life is a network variable. So what do we do about this? Well, what we're going to do is basically make a local health and a local poise and a local check for being dead. And we're going to use our calculation based on our local health by taking whatever the network health is currently and then applying our damage to it, and then basically treating the local health, or you can even call it the predicted health, what we think the health will be after our damage is. If it goes to 0, then we basically kill the character, and we make them play an animation locally anyway. So the pros to this is basically there is seemingly no delay in when you hit something, no matter how far away you are. The cons are to this that if you don't have your data set up perfectly on both ends, and by that I mean, let's just say on my end my damage is 500, but for some reason on your end when I send you the server RPC it's 450. What can happen is a zombie can be dead on my end but alive in your end. But this is good too because all this shows you is that your calculations somewhere are off. So providing your data is consistent, this is a great way to do it because the character will be dead if the data is consistent on both ends. So we're going to do it that way, and if you have any other way that you do it you'd like to share, please by all means let me know in the comments. Okay, so let's start immediately, and I'm here my project. I'm going to go to our take damage effect. Now this is going to be a lot of treading over old ground, so what we're going to do is make some things that weren't network variables. Let's go to calculating our damage, and did I really not put in the calculations for armor absorption after all this time? I just forgot. Okay, so I have this comment here where I clearly was supposed to put in the armor absorptions that we made eons ago, and I haven't. Now I'm going to bet my money that they're a local variable on the character stats manager. You can keep these a local variable if you're updating it when you change your armor, but I'm going to make them a network variable because I just want to be absolutely certain if they change in any way, shape, or form, we have the real data. So I'm going to go over here in my character stats manager, copy all of these, and remove them, and I'm going to paste them on the character network manager, and we're just going to put them somewhere down here below stats, we'll say. And I'm going to call this, well, I'll keep it called armor absorption, I guess. I'm going to copy this, hold alt, highlight all of these, and just paste them in real quick. And I'm just going to change their value to a float actually before I do that and copy it, just so they're all the same. And then I'll just, boom, there we go. Okay, so set them defaultly to 0, and the theme of this video essentially is going to be basically taking a lot of this data that's not a network variable, changing it to a network variable, and then we're going to take network variables and we're going to get a projected value based on the network value, which will make more sense soon. Don't worry, that might have just sounded like a mouthful of words, but I swear, it'll make sense. So let's first make a quick calculation here for armor absorption because I completely forgot to come back and do this. I'm just going to do one, and then I'll pause the video to save time and show them all on screen. But we're going to have the values equal to your absorption value on your network divided by 100, right? So that's how much absorption you have. So if you have 80, it's going to be 0.8. So 80 is an 80% absorption, right? It turns into 0.8. And then we're going to say the final damage is equal to the damage minus equals. And then we're going to say whatever the absorption, or sorry, the damage is times the absorption. So again, if I have 100 damage and then I have 80 physical absorption, I'm going to end up with 20 because I'm going to get a value of 0.8 on my physical absorption, which will basically take away 80 damage after this math is done. And then if it's less than 0 somehow, just set it to 0 because you don't want to have damage accidentally healing somebody. And it's the magic of editing. I'm Snapback here, and I will test all this in the next video to make sure it's working, unless I did some bad math real quick, just going through this very fast, which is entirely possible. Take away the isOwner check and calculate damage, because now we're going to be calculating damage on both sides. So we're going to say if character is owner, else. So if you are the owner, then we have to do the same thing we used to do. Otherwise, we have to basically calculate our projected life. And this isn't going to work yet either because we have to make modifications to the damage colliders, but that will come into play in the next video. I mean, you can totally take a whack at it yourself, and actually I encourage you to do so. You definitely should. So take the total offensive and base poise values off the character stats manager and make them network variables, because we need this now also as a constant data stream. We need to know what these values are all the time. We can't just have them exist locally anymore. Because before, if you were getting poise damaged, you would just play an animation to show that you were poise damaged. But now I need to know your poise because I need to calculate your projected poise to play the animation locally, instantly on this side. So we're going to say character network manager total poise. So basically just reference the network variables where those old variables used to be. That's all we're doing. And then we're going to say minus equals poise damage. And this is if you are the owner. Let's make a function for getting the remaining poise real quick, so we have to write it out twice. So we'll say private float, and we can say get poise. I'm actually going to probably change that to get remaining poise in a moment because that's kind of very ambiguous. So I'm going to make it require a character manager, call it character, and we're just going to copy or we can write it out again, whichever, but basically the functionality we had up there. So we can say float poise remaining. And I'm going to say is equal to, actually, you can just call it poise if you want to, but again, it's very general, so I'll call it current poise. We'll say is equal to character network manager base poise defense.value plus, you're going to add your offensive poise bonus, so when you swing heavy weapons, if you want to give that to the character, then that's factored in too. And finally, you add your poise damage, so if that's a negative value, we'll actually obviously subtract from it. So if I'm adding 20 plus negative 50, you know what I'm saying? I get a value of negative 10. So that will be a quick way to get how much poise we have remaining. And we know that if this value is less than 0, then we are poise broken. So instead of writing that out twice, we can just go up here now and say get poise. So we can say remaining poise is equal to get poise. We pass the character, and there we go. And I'm going to rename that to get current poise. Okay, that looks good. So this stays the same, poise broken is true, and then your poise reset timer, that's all well and good. Now, below here, what if you're not the owner, and we can't edit the network variables? Well, I'm just going to make a quick comment here too to really drive home this point. Applied damage and poise damage if this is the server, or rather if you are the owner, I guess I should have said, but that's okay, you get what I'm saying. Otherwise, we're going to predict poise and damage. So what we're going to do is make a local variable for our projected life, and then we can basically just use that projected life to determine if this character is going to be dead. So we'll say int projected life is equal to, and then we're going to say character network manager current health. I keep saying life because I'm thinking I'm a nef. I call it life and nef, not health. I'll change it to health here to keep it consistent, as not be confusing. We're going to say minus the final damage dealt. So this is a projection. We're not editing the network variable because we're assuming what it will be based on the values we're passed. So here's where we want to update the HPR locally to reflect that, so you don't have to wait. So basically I'm trying to say if you have a projected damage type and you have a new projected health, then update the local HP bar to be that projected health immediately. And we're going to modify it later too, so this basically makes you have to wait for the HP bar to reflect the changes of the network variable. Now we're going to say if projected health is less than or equal to 0, then we know we're dead. So we can say character.animator set bool is dead is equal to true, but also we're going to set a flag that we don't have yet to true called is dead local. And is dead local is going to become just as important as is dead, because there's going to be a split moment in the game if you're connecting with someone who's very far away, where the network flag for is dead has not been changed on your side, but is dead local can be changed instantly. And this is going to stop us from doing silly things like playing animations when we shouldn't, and becoming things like stance broken when we shouldn't, because if you are dead locally and it takes a half a second for is dead to update, there's a small chance where something could happen between that window, right? So we want to save that as a local variable so we can use that as a check. And we can also up here too, if you're still the owner, we can change is dead local to true up here as well. just because obviously setting the network variable, you still have the isDead local variable yourself. Now this is, I'm just ripping stuff from Nef really quick, and we're going to go over it and modify it a bit and make it look nicer and neater after, but let's get it all in there first and then just kind of go from there and see what we need to change. So this might be a little bit dirty while I'm copying out because it is a little bit different in Nef. So we're going to get projected poise by saying int projected poise is equal to get current poise, and then we're going to say minus poise damage. And then we're going to say if our projected poise is less than or equal to 0, then we know we are poise broken. And that's it. That's basically how we're going to do the damage step. But now, right now we have no way of playing the animations instantly, and right now we're just getting a projected value. Nothing is actually happening that's any different. So what do we do next? Well, we're going to need a way, oh, and also if you're not poise broken, you could say false. I guess I don't need to say that here though, I'm just, again, copying Nef, so that's why it's there. Alright, never mind, I'll adjust that later. Let's go up here, and then we're going to go to the place where you play directional based animations. Get rid of the isOwner check, so this is where you play your animations. Now, if we're dead, or we're dead local, return, because if we're dead local, we don't want to play an animation that would be a damage animation, that would be silly. Now, let's go to knock off ladder. You can see here if there's an owner check, you can get rid of that, and you can play this locally. So we could say play target local animation, and this doesn't exist yet. So let's go make that. Let's go to the animator. Let's go to the character animator manager, and then we're going to copy our play target action animation and play target animation, and I'm going to change it to play local animation and play local animation instantly. And all we're going to do is literally use the exact same identical logic, but we're going to delete the call that makes a call to the server RPC. The reason being is because here's what's going to happen. Previously, if I'm in your game and I hit a zombie in your world, I send you a server RPC, you go, okay, yep, you hit the zombie, and then you send me one back playing the damage animation. But now, what's going to happen when we're done is I'm going to hit the zombie, I'm going to play a damage step locally on my end, I'm going to send it to you, and then you're going to play it locally on your end. So basically, we're both going to play it. Now, let's go back over to fall from ladder, and again, we can check for owner here. You can see we are requiring an owner step for this. Let's go back over here and go to Kemi knocked off ladder. So let's copy this from the character, I think it's on the stats manager, or sorry, locomotion manager, and let's make it a network variable because you need to be able to be knocked off the ladder, but we need to know if you can be knocked off the ladder, and this is not one of those things I want to store locally either, because again, if on my end it says you can be, and on your end it says you can't, well, if you play the knockoff ladder animation on your end, but not on my end, that would be kind of weird. That would cause a desync. Ladder is one of those things, honestly, for being knocked off that you could only process if you are the owner if you want, because it's such a unique thing that doesn't happen frequently. But just to make it even look a little bit more reactive and speedy, I'm going to play it locally as well. So come down here next, and we're going to go and right at the very bottom where you see play target action animation, all you want to do is just simply say play local animation. And down here where you have play target action animation, again, we're just going to say play local animation, and that's really it. So wherever you play an animation on this damage step, just change it to play local animation and remove a check for owner before going there. Now let's go to where we are checking out where our character is dead, because we're going to do this more in the next video, but wherever you have is dead, a lot of times you want to check for is dead local too. So under handle stance break, this is fine because this is just kind of modifying our stance values, but our current stance needs to be a network variable. Why? Because we're going to look at projected stance, and we're going to play the stance break animation locally. If on my end I'm hitting a zombie and his stance is broken, I don't want to have to wait for you to send me the RPC after I've hit him a second later. I want it to play instantly. So let's make a stance variable here for our current stance as a network variable, initialized as 0. And then back over here on the AI character combat manager, wherever we're referencing that stance, just you're going to get an error now because it doesn't exist. So reference it from the AI character network manager instead. And now we're going to also further modify this function. We're going to take where we actually play the animation and bring it down to where we're calculating our stance damage. And we're going to do things a little bit differently. So I'm just going to correct these errors here by referencing the correct variable type, and I'll do some editing here as well in post so it's a bit quicker. So if I cut out for a second or something happens, that's why. I'm just correcting these errors. Okay, now down here at the bottom where you see we're playing the stance break animation, and you see where all this is actually this whole, let's copy everything right up to if stance is less than or equal to 0 and delete it. Now under damage stance, come down here and paste it right at the bottom, right below current stance. So let's look at what we're going to do. So we're going to say, right at the very top, first off, if you're being critically damaged, don't allow this to happen, because otherwise you could stance break someone as they're being backstabbed, and they'll stop the backstab animation. That will look kind of weird and buggy. You might have already experienced this and put this in yourself. So I'm just going to say, if we're being critically damaged, and inside that, if we're the owner, I'm going to set my stance back to max stance. So basically, every time you've been backstabbed or opposed to it, your stance resets. I think that's fair. You don't have to do that, but I think that makes for better gameplay. If you're not the owner, just also return, because we don't want to play the animation regardless. Okay, now right below that, I'm going to say if AI character is owner, and then we're going to set our current stance to minus equal to stance damage. So that doesn't change. That's still very much so the same. Now, what we want to do right above that is make a float for a projected stance. And we're going to say projected stance is equal to AI character network manager, current stance dot value minus the stance damage we're passing. And then instead of checking for stance damage here, we can just simply check for if our projected stance is less than or equal to 0, then we know we're going to play some damage animation. Now, under here, if the damage that we're passing is colossal, we're going to say projected stance is equal to 1, and then we're going to say if we're the owner, we're going to make our current stance the projected stance, which is 1. And then right down here, we're going to say projected stance is equal to max stance. I need to just grab that owner check here. And then we're going to say, if we're the owner, we're going to set the current stance to the projected stance. So basically, if you become stance broken, we're just setting it back to max right before we play the animation. That's all, just so it's reset. And now we're going to say if AI character is dead value or is dead local, return. We don't want to play the stance break animation. Otherwise, we're going to play the stance break animation locally. So here we go, instantly too. Now it's very possible I'm making some mistakes here, so just check this over and let me know if I missed something as I'm talking in the video, but I'm going to check it over to myself regardless. So over here on the reset animator bool, we're going to change the can be knocked off ladder value to false in the owner check here. So just move the variable down and add the value to it. And basically, total poise damage here on the character stats manager, we're going to check for the owner, and then we're going to set the total poise damage value to 0. This is under a handle poise reset timer. I'm basically just going through all the errors that we're getting now for changing all these things into network variables. So I'm going to jump around here, and as I see it, I'm going to correct it. You can really skip this if you want. That's what I'm going to do, or you can just kind of do it with me. But every time I get a Reddit error here, I'm just going to change all these network variables. Now, for enable can be knocked off ladder for a time, I am going to check if we're not the owner and simply return, because personally, I'm only going to change this flag back and forth, obviously, for the owner, but I don't need to run the coroutine on both sides on this project, because all we're doing is changing a network variable. So for that reason, I'm going to do an owner check here and not run this coroutine otherwise. Okay, now over here under player stats manager, I am going to set all of these network variables. So for that reason, under calculate total armor absorption, I'm going to say if the player is not the owner, simply return, because all I'm doing here is basically setting up all of my damage values, my absorption values. So I will say player.player network manager, and then I will say reference these variables here, and I'm going to put dot value at the end, and I'm going to snap back through some editing now because this is just a lot of the same. Okay, I'm done. Going to save that, minimize this, and now I only have 4 left. So let's go here. They're all in the critical damage step. So what I'm going to do here now is go over here and reference my total poise damage. And again, all we're doing here is just getting this from the network, and we're just changing the names to match the new network variables instead of the old variables as they were. So I'm just going to change all this and say dot value, and then we're good to go. So after that's done, I'm going to save it. And now in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to go back through all of our damage colliders and edit how we actually process sending those damage RPCs, because that's going to be different as well. So in the end, this is going to look like the following, just to be very clear. I want to paint a very clear picture. So if you've not listened to anything, you should listen to the stuff in this video, obviously, but really listen to this. What we're going to do is when you hit something like an AI character, that AI character on your end, regardless if you're the host or the client, is going to play a damage reaction, and we're going to calculate the damage. We're even going to calculate what their health would be despite you not being able to change the network variable, and we're going to reflect that in the local HV bar. So all that's going to happen instantly. We're then going to send that data to the server, the host, and he's going to have that character play the exact same damage animation and step on his side. And because our data is consistent, if one of them's dead, both are going to be dead, and vice versa. Now for players, it's a little bit different. We're not going to do it the same way in PvP. If you go to hit me, I'm only going to register that hit if on my screen you actually hit me. You don't have to do that. You can do the reverse if you want. I just find favoring the player locally is a better experience because nothing feels worse than getting smoked by a spear like 9 feet away from you because the other player is lagging. Again, you can of course do it differently, but this has worked out very well for me and Neff, so I'm going to showcase what I did. Okay guys, it's that time again. I hope you all have a very, very lovely weekend. Thank you so much to my patrons for keeping this channel alive. Thank you to the people who take the time to leave a like and comment in the videos and who try out my demo and leave us a nice review and to do anything and interact with the channel. Thank you all very much for being here. I hope you learned something new. I hope you have a good weekend. I will see you guys next week.